Hello YouTube, how's everyone doing? It's Professional here. So I had a lot of projects that I was doing recently, which is why I decided to take a break from Ace Attorney after we finished that last case. But we're continuing on, now we're doing episode 4 here, so let's continue where we left off. And if you enjoy this series, do drop a like, it does help the series out a lot. Start playing from this chapter, okay. The courtroom bombing incident. Terrible attack launched by the will of a madman. That incident perfectly symbolized the state of the legal world in this dark age of the law. Mr. Wright brought it to a resolution of sorts. Ted to Nate was discovered to be the one responsible for the bombing. If only it were that simple. Somehow, I can't help but think that there's a darker influence at work. One that's lurking in the shadows, waiting. That's supposed to mean. That's why I want to review the trial that was taking place when the bombing occurred. After all, I've got more than a few personal stakes in it. The Cosmic Turnabout.
One hour remaining until launch. Please begin your final equipment check.
Check complete. Everything's A-okay. We're ready here whenever you are.
What the?
Come in at 2. Come in. Do you copy?
Are you telling me there's a murder at a space station? What? What? An astronaut was murdered? December 16, 9:12 a.m. District Court. Defendant Lobby, number 5. Time for another trial to begin. But this one is different. Sorry to bother you, but... Oh, Junie again. Are you alright, Apollo? So apparently this is taking place the same time the bombing trial is happening? Ah, was I making a scary face just now? Oh, hi, Juniper. Yes, I'm fine. I was just doing my Chords of Steel exercises. Now I'm all ready to go. Yes, knowing you, I'm sure you will be just fine. Oh, I brought you a present from my garden. Is this a lotus root? That's right. My grandma says lotus root is good for your eyes. She even says that if you look through the holes, it can help you see into the future. It's for good luck. Maybe later you can cook it and... Thanks for this. I'm gonna have some right now. Oh my. Crunch. Kinda tough though. You can't eat it raw, but thank you for the enthusiastic try. Oops, if she didn't think me weird before, she will now. Gotta calm down. Apollo, I'm sorry I'm late. Hi, Tina. Junie, I didn't know you were coming today. Did you come to cheer Apollo on? Oh, I get it. You sly little thing, you. Haha. Tina, stop. Quit kidding around, Athena. The trial's about to start any second. Is everything all set? Oh, Apollo. When will you ever figure it out? Figure out what? What? Wow. That was the longest sigh I've ever heard. Hang, this is it. It's all over for me. They're gonna find me guilty. You would show up in your astronaut suit? This is our client, one Mr. Solomon Soul Starbuck. He's a very famous astronaut who happens to be an acquaintance of mine. You wouldn't know it right now, but he's usually a very upbeat and driven person. The scene of the crime this time happened to be the Cosmos Space Center. Back in high school, my best friend and I went there almost a little too much. But that's where we met Mr. Starbuck. We'd asked about space travel, and he'd launch into a story after story with so much passion. Back in those days, the man was 100% my hero. Are you sure you're okay with being my lawyer, Apollo? Of course I'm sure. I know you, Mr. Starbuck. I know you're not the type to commit murder. Thanks, but... Hank... I was supposed to be in space right about now. Hank... That's a weird sigh to make. He's so depressed it almost seems like an act. The launch getting called off must have been a huge shock. I'll probably never get the chance to go into space again. Don't say that, don't stop believing. Besides, you just have to go into space again. Yeah, I don't think I could face Clay in the afterlife if I just rotted away in a cell. Clay Terran, I can't believe he was murdered. I mean, he was such a promising astronaut under your command. Yeah, he was a good guy. Always there to pick me up, when I was down. No one loved life as much as him, that's for sure. He was always so full of energy, telling me, "You're fine, Mr. Starbuck." Dang. How could something like this happen to a guy like him, huh? Never seen Mr. Starbuck so down. Dang. Clay's gone, and I'm going to prison. I wish I could burn up like a shooting star right now. Mr. Starbuck, you'll be fine. Ah, what is it? What's with the yelling? I'll get to the bottom of this today, you'll see. In exchange, I want you to get back into space for you and Clay, promise? Does that mean you have lots of evidence to prove my innocence? Oh, well, about that. We didn't get to investigate the area as much as I'd have liked, thanks to the police. I'm done for. I'm a goner. Everybody thinks I did it. Thought I was gonna soar like a comet, but I'm just gonna crash like a meteorite. No, don't say that, Mr. Starbuck. Don't count yourself out yet. I know it's hard to lose a teammate, but you've gotta keep going. And what about you, Apollo? What about me? I was just thinking, wasn't Clay your best friend? We need to focus on the trial right now. Are you all ready to go? So yes, so that's apparently what happened to Apollo's best friend. So we didn't find out about this until now. He talked about it before, but his best friend apparently was murdered. Apollo. The trial is about to begin. If the defense would please proceed into the courtroom. Oh, okay. Here we go. This is it. This is one trial I can't afford to lose. Okay. For Clay's sake and our clients, I will find Clay's killer. December 16, 9:55 a.m. District Court. Courtroom number 4. Day 1 court is now in session. All rise. Okay, let's see what this is about. Court is now in session for the trial of Solomon Starbuck. The defense is ready, Your Honor. What's with the eye patch? Excuse me, Mr. Justice. Yes, Your Honor. What happened to your eye? I'm fine. The defense is ready, Your Honor. Are you sure? I don't... I'm fine, Your Honor. The defense is ready. I'm sorry, Your Honor. He's been like this since yesterday. He keeps insisting it's just a sty. I suppose it's something he doesn't want to discuss. Maybe he's entering a touchy age.
Very well. And the prosecution?
Oh, it's Blackwell.
The prosecution appears to be ready as well.
Silence.
Not yet. I'm not quite ready yet. Hmm?
Ah! Oh, ah!
Oh, and that bomb case is still there. The prosecution is now ready. Well, it didn't take him long this time. What's up with Blackwell?
Now then, I shall give the opening statement.
Silence.
I'll do it.
You will? What an unexpected surprise.
This time, I can't leave it to anyone else.
I see. Something is off with the two of you today.
What's going on here?
You both seem different somehow. Very well. Prosecutor Blackwell, your opening statement if you would.
It was just yesterday. The crime in question occurred at the Cosmos Space Center.
Ah, that famous federal research facility of all things related to astrology, right?
Astronomy. It's astronomy. Anyway, a rocket was set to launch from there. Yeah, and remember when Mafia 2, when Eddie says, astrology, he says that too. But at 9:28 a.m., before they could even move the rocket to the launch site, two explosive devices were detonated, and the launch was cancelled.
My word, 2 bombs, how dreadful.
The defendant in today's trial is charged of both the bombing and with the murder. One Mr. Solomon Starbuck. For whatever inane reason, he detonated a bomb on the rocket he himself would be in.
Solomon Starbuck, I recognize that name. Isn't he that famous astronaut?
Correct, your baldness. Mr. Starbuck was the pilot of the Hat-1 rocket 7 years ago. I like how the bird just brings in the paper. As you may recall, despite some interstellar trouble, his mission was a success. Some say it was a miracle he returned alive. I suppose you could say he's a living legend. And so, the rocket that he was supposed to be on, there was 2 bombs that were detonated. But why is he the main suspect? And if he was going to be on the rocket, he could have died too.
Oh, I remember now. He's become something of an international celebrity, right? They even turned that incident into a movie and everything.
The Hat-1 miracle. Mankind's hope for the future. I've got to make it back. Back alive.
We've got a real space pioneer in court today.
But even heroes tumble from their lofty heights. Returning to the subject at hand.
Ah, yes. The victim was one Mr. Clay Terran, a subordinate of the defendant.
Indeed, a loyal disciple, brutally stabbed to death by his mentor.
Stabbed to death, you say? You mean his death wasn't a result of the bombing?
Correct. Despite his lofty dreams, the victim was seen as an interloper by the defendant. So, this is one thing that's kind of wrong. The judge would be very familiar with the case before he's even presiding over the trial. So, like, the fact that he doesn't even know how the murder happened, yeah. And so, he was sent into space, but to the universe which we mortals cannot see. Play.
I think I've heard about enough. The case seems pretty clear-cut at this point. However, there's one thing I'm curious about. That metal box next to the witness stand.
Oh, yeah, that.
What purpose does it serve exactly?
Since you asked so nicely, it's your coffin. What?
Have mercy on me!
I jest, it's evidence. Due to its immense size, we've little choice but to lay it where it rests now. We shall get the contents of the box in due time.
Phew. I feel as if I just lost 50 years of my life.
Does he even have 50 years left? Inner monologue, Athena. Inner monologue. Enough jabbering.
Bobby Fulbright's the name, in justice we trust. Ah, Detective Fulbright. Very well then. Please explain the details of this incident to the court if you would. On it, first take, look at this pamphlet from the Cosmos Space Center. In it, you'll find a diagram outlining the overall layout of the Space Center. Ah, here we are. For a more detailed look at what's on the left side of this building, take a look at this cross-section that we, the police, have created. See the launch pad in the main building? The launch pad is the square building, and the rounded structure is the main building, right? You got it! The incidents took place in Launch Pad 1 and the main building's lounge. I'll be using this diagram during my testimony. It'll make it easier to understand. Space Center diagram. A cross-section view of the main building, the Space Center, and Launch Pad. Witness testimony. Details of the case. Just before the rocket was set to launch, 2 bombs went off. Boom, boom. One on the second floor of the Space Center's main building, and one in the Launch Pad 1. Thankfully, only the 2 astronauts were in the Launch Pad 1 at the time. The 2 of them managed to make it back as far as the boarding lounge. But after the escape, one of the 2 was found stabbed to death. But how is that? Why is Star being accused of that? A murder on top of a bombing. Detective, the victim was already dead by the time you arrived at the lounge, correct? Yup. Thinking he'd sabotaged the bombing, the defendant killed him right there in the rocket. Just look at this tragic photo. Oh my, is that a knife in the victim's chest? Yes, Your Honor. It's a knife that cruelly ended this young man's dreams. We couldn't get any prints off of it though, because the defendant was in his spacesuit.
Yeah, I'm not sure what spacesuits are made out of exactly, but I'm not sure whether you would be able to actually do it like that, that easily. Because they're supposed to go into space, so they can't be pierced. Remember that too. Utility knife, like a bullet would definitely go through a spacesuit, but I don't know necessarily if a knife would. Maybe if it went really, really hard. I don't know how strong those suits are, but I know they're supposed to withstand space, obviously. Utility knife. The victim's blood was found on its blade, but no fingerprints could be lifted. Well, that's looking good for our client.
Right away, Detective Fulbright. Why are the victim's helmet and right glove absent in this photograph? We had to remove them to identify him, Your Honor. I personally removed his glove during the investigation. We had to get his fingerprints to confirm his identity after all. Yes, it would be very difficult to identify him without a face or fingerprints. Now, there's just one thing I'd like to inquire about. What is this round thing next to the victim in this photo? Something so important to the victim, he took it with him when he escaped the launch pad. A capsule that apparently contains asteroid samples. Well, obviously valuable for research purposes, it has no relation to this case. No, it probably has something to do with the case. I see.
So, we know that the bomb in the main building was on the second floor. But where is the bomb that was in the launch pad 1 located?
That one was on the rocket itself. It was situated around the central part of the rocket. Apparently, the area around the launch pad's elevator was a sea of flames. I would like to submit this diagram report into the record. The explosion sparked a fire on the second floor of the main building in the middle level of the launch pad near the elevator. The trial's just started and we're already in a bind. You get used to it. Besides, that's what cross-examination is for, right? What the 2 astronauts were doing during the bombing. That'll be the key. Details of the case. Just before the rocket was set to launch, 2 bombs went off. Boom, boom.
Hold it!
How powerful were the explosions?
Well, the one in the main building wasn't strong enough to bring the place down. But the room it went off in was burned black. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. Due in large part, of course, to me stepping up to lead the evacuation.
Wait, what were you doing there in the first place, Detective Fulbright?
Ha ha ha! I'm Bobby Fulbright, hero of justice. I'll be there whenever and wherever and whenever people need my help. I go to the other side of the world or even the edge of the universe.
not sure he knows how far that actually is. But I guess I'll leave that one alone. He hasn't answered why he was there, though.
Admirable decision, Justice Dono. Huh? What do you decide?
Anyway, could you describe what it was like at the Space Center at that time? The bomb cut the power to the central bank of the elevators and the third floor lounge. It was pitch black in there. It was pitch black in there, I tell you.
However, the security cameras and whatnot were running on emergency backup.
And how did the evacuation go?
I immediately and heroically whisked people down to the Space Center's basement shelter. The basement shelter? Yes, there's an emergency shelter beneath the Space Center.
An emergency shelter, huh? Oh, here it is. It's at the bottom of this diagram. The Space Center's pretty impressive to have its own shelter. Evacuation report. The bombs went off despite tight security. Police officers and riot police who had been standing by gave the evacuation instructions. The power outage and evacuation seem unrelatable to the murder at this point. I guess I'll leave that aside for now. So there were 2 explosions in total, correct?
Yup, that's right. One on the second floor of the Space Center's main building and one in the launch pad 1.
Hold it!
Let me get this straight. Mr. Starbuck rigged a rocket he was going to board of explosives?
Huh? What are you talking about?
If the defendant really did plant the bomb on his own rocket, he'd get caught in the explosion as well. It's a good point. It's what I said earlier.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Well, oh my god. How did you not think of that? You're a judge.
Fine. A simpleton for a simpleton. Fulbright, the motive. Understood. The defendant actually had astrophobia.
What? Astrophobia? What's that? Fear of space.
A fear of space. Fear of space, naturally. Just the thought of space can cause the afflicted to freeze up. And so in his terror, the defendant found a way to stop the launch at the last minute.
That's insane. That he's scared to go into space, so he's gonna do a bombing. That's just insane. That's so ridiculous. That's absurd. Exactly what I just said.
Unfortunately for you, we have evidence. Take a look at these.
What are they? Let me move my camera here. What, those look like pills?
These anti-anxiety tablets were found amongst the defendant's possessions. Apparently, he was taking them in secret to quell his fears.
Well,
there were a multitude of problems with the rocket Mr. Starbuck rode 7 years ago.
but here's the thing is, if any astronaut says they are not nervous at all, they're not scared at all, I think they're lying. Like, anybody will be scared, even the most professional astronauts, like, you know, going into space, because disasters have happened before. Rockets have exploded. It's happened before. We've had horrible accidents like that. And so it's like anybody will be scared. So that's not really proof that, like, he would rig the rocket to explode. That's an insane theory.
Rumor has it, he threatened to crash a number of times. It threatened to crash a number of times. That was, of course, very traumatic for Mr. Starbuck.
But that doesn't mean he'd go so far to blow up his own ship.
Silence.
Exactly.
The defendant couldn't bear to mar his good name, now could he? No, not after the media had branded him Sol Starbuck, space pioneer extraordinaire. Given these conditions, the defendant could hardly run away like some base mutt.
Wait, so that's why you think he resorted to the bombing?
Naturally, he constructed this act of sabotage in an attempt to blow up the Space Center, but
You've shown no proof. That's insane. It's an insane theory that he was scared to board the rocket and so therefore he decided to bomb it. That's such an insane theory. There's no evidence for it. Just because he's scared, it doesn't prove anything.
which would effectively abort the launch, but spare his reputation. Now, I'm sure you understand why we have to bring justice down on this atrocious criminal.
Also, here's the thing is, most of the time when there is a bombing, it's actually a federal investigation in the US. It's actually not a state investigation. So regardless of where it actually happens, if it's some kind of bombing, possible terrorist attack, it's almost always a federal investigation. It's not a state investigation.
Thankfully, only 2 astronauts were in Launch Pad 1 at the time.
Hold it!
Are you sure it was only the 2 of them?
It was just before the spaceship was set to launch, so of course it was only those two. Well, there could have been somebody else inside that rocket.
Silence.
The notion of a third party in Launchpad 1 is utterly absurd. Just to enter the area from the lounge, one must pass through a door guarded by a fingerprint recognition device. And allow me to state up front that there are precious few with the clearance to do so. A fingerprint recognition device? It sounds as futuristic and complex as a space center. Actually, it's not as amazing as you think, Your Honor. Take a look at this photo. This is the door in the lounge with the fingerprint lock. Only personnel whose fingerprints are registered can pass through. I see. That is very different from what I had in mind. And is there a record of the number of people that passed through the door yesterday? Yes, there were only 3. The defendant, the victim, and... the director of the Space Center, Yuri Cosmos. That's definitely a reference to Yuri Gagarin. If Yuri Cosmos is gonna be Russian, that's definitely gonna convince me that that he's based on Yuri Gagarin. Yuri Gagarin was a very famous Soviet astronaut. I think that he was the first man in space. Was he actually the first man in space? Let me see. Who was the first man in space? Yuri Gagarin. So yeah, Gagarin was the first man in space. I was right. So yes, he was a Soviet astronaut, and he did not land on the moon. He just orbited Earth. He circled Earth at a speed of 27,400 kilometers. Okay. Doesn't that mean it's possible that the director is the one who did it? Not a chance. He was in the main building when the bombs exploded at 9:28. Well, that doesn't prove anything. He could have rigged them. Doing his job directing the launch. Besides having an alibi, he has no motive for committing these senseless acts. You don't know that. He could still have a motive. And how do you know the bombs weren't rigged? Like, this doesn't mean that he has to be there, like, when it detonates. He has a point. I guess the director can't be considered a suspect. And no, he doesn't have a point. Because we don't know the background of the director. We haven't investigated him. And the bombs, we don't know the bombs were on a timer or not. Launchpad 1 door lock. A biometric door locked, operated by fingerprint recognition. Only the defendant, the victim, and the Space Center director had access. The 2 of them managed to make it back as far as the boarding lounge. Okay, let me see here.
Hold it!
So while it would appear that the pair barely escaped with their lives, in actuality, one of them had already been murdered inside the rocket. That's the angle the prosecution wants to push, correct?
You got it. In fact, that's what I've been trying to say this whole time. If the victim had been alive, he would have sure tried to stop the bombing. Is there any chance Mr. Tehran could have been killed before he boarded the rocket? They were both alive and well at boarding time, and embarked under their own power. Their hearts full of hopes and dreams of space. And then both of their hopes and dreams were dashed. If I may continue my explanation, after the evacuation order was given, the defendant made his escape, carrying the victim to make it look like a rescue. But after the escape, one of the 2 was found stabbed to death.
Hold it!
And who was the first to find the victim?
Actually, there were 2 of them. The Space Center director, Yuri Cosmos, and Detective Candace Arm. Oh, her. She was murdered by the bomber, remember that. One of them was a detective. Yep, Detective Arm specializes in bombings, you see. She and the director were ordering the evacuation following the explosions. They were also worried about the astronauts, so they hurried over to the boarding lounge. That's when they discovered the victim along with the defendant. 2 witnesses, huh? And one of them is a detective. I doubt either one would have anything to say that would help me. I think that pretty much covers the details of the case. Only the victim and the defendant were on the launch pad when the former was killed. If this is the truth, then only Mr. Starbuck could have carried out this crime. What little I could get out of him only hurt my case. Justice Dono. Foolish is the warrior who rushes headlong into battle. Preparation is an essential element of battle, so I advise you to take a gander at this. What is it? Footage from a security camera. As the two astronauts emerge from the bowels of the Launch Pad 1 corridor. The boarding lounge security camera captured their desperate escape. Now, I would direct your attention to what the defendant is shouldering. Which you can see is none other than the lifeless body of the victim.
We don't see any stab wound there. What?
Order! Order, I say! This lines up exactly what the prosecution has been asserting.
I should have known Blackwell would have something like this ready. Video camera. Video showing the defendant and victim escape from the corridor to the boarding lounge. Apollo. I don't see a knife wound there. And there's no blood trail. There would be blood. That's right, if he was stabbed, there'd probably be a blood trail. I mean, unless the suit was holding all the blood, but... Apollo, how exactly did they determine that Clay was already gone in that footage? Yeah, exactly. Ah, I see what you mean. Whether Clay was alive at that point is pretty crucial. Your Honor, please take another look at the footage. Isn't it possible Mr. Tehran was still alive here and that Mr. Starbuck was helping him?
Why, I believe you're right. One man carrying the other to safety. What a beautiful expression of friendship.
Silence.
Perhaps that's what it looks like to a one-eyed hothead and a dotard.
What?
But it only makes sense if it's the victim's dead body.
What do you mean?
Fulbright, explain it to Justice Dono. You got it. Ready, kid? If the murder had occurred in the lounge, someone could have spotted it. Anyone can enter the lounge after all. But doing it while they were alone in the spaceship, that's a horse of a different color.
But you can't deny that there's a possibility the murder could have happened in the lounge. All that video shows is a man helping his fellow astronaut out.
Silence.
Your assertion is based on emotion. It's based on your belief that Mr. Starbuck would surely help his own disciple. But you have no logical explanation as to why the victim could still be alive. Eric. Unfortunately, Mr. Justice, the prosecution is right. Your argument is lacking in sound logic.
It sounded perfectly logical to me.
Well, Mr. Justice, if you have no further objections, I believe it's time to bring this cross-examination to a close.
Objections. Well,
Hold it!
Your Honor, the defense requests a little time to think and regroup.
Given the facts, I'm not sure I see the need.
What is it, Athena? It's just... there's something that's been bothering me.
If it isn't the defense stalling for time as always. Very well. I'm feeling generous. You may have a small measure of time.
Yes.
You have 5 seconds.
What? 5 seconds?
After that, I declare this cross-examination to be closed, and a verdict to be rendered. Your boldness, raise your gavel high. It's time for a countdown. Oh. Ready?
We don't have time. Spit it out, Athena. Only 3 more
seconds.
Heck, you can't do something like that in court. 5 seconds. Look, I don't think the prosecution's explanation is very complete. Meaning? Meaning there's something missing. Like they conveniently left it unexplained. Something they didn't explain. Something they didn't explain. Why he even brought him with him, exactly. You know, why he brought the body there. That might be it. He could have just left the body and said he died in the explosion. That's what he could have done. Ah, you're right. I think I know what you're talking about.
Your 5 seconds are up, Mr. Justice. Is there anything about the prosecution's argument that you'd like to rebut?
Yes, Your Honor. Actually, there is. There's something the prosecution has yet to make clear to this court.
Well, if you put it that way, What is it that the prosecution has failed to explain?
Why the body was moved. I got it. I called it early. Why the body was moved. They have failed to explain why Mr. Starbuck would bother bringing the body back at all. If the defendant wanted to kill the victim, why didn't he just leave his body in the rocket? Why go through the trouble of bringing him all the way back to the boarding lounge?
Oh, that's true. I don't think we've heard the prosecution's thought on that yet.
That's because they have none, Your Honor. After all, how does one explain something so logical? The prosecution is claiming the defendant moved the victim's dead body. But what if the entire premise of that argument is wrong?
Let's hear your theory, Mr. Justice.
The defense proposes that the defendant didn't kill the victim. He was helping him. Hack.
Fulbright, explain it for our sad friend here before I nod off to his monotone monologue. Inform him exactly why Spaceboy moved the victim.
Huh? They've got to be joking.
It's simple. Mr. Starbuck did what he did to direct suspicion away from himself. He wanted to create the impression he heroically risked his life to save his partner, but
You don't have evidence for that.
that's why he made sure to make it look, made it to the security camera so that there'd be a record. At the very least, he appears to have achieved success with you and the old man. Ah. One man carrying the other to safety. What a beautiful expression of friendship. The average person wearing a spacesuit weighs easily over 200 pounds. Saving the life of a partner who weighs as much while trying to escape deadly flames. What a dramatic sob story fit for the silver screen. Indeed, I was completely taken in by the humanity of the story. You see? Yet the true ending is that all traces of his hammy act were meant to be blown up. Yes, and now we arrive at the thrilling conclusion. The third explosion.
Third? What are you talking about? There was no third explosion.
Silence.
Indeed, you are correct. But that is thanks to Detective Arm. It was she who identified and secured the bomb. However, it doesn't change the fact that the third bomb was discovered in the lounge. The steel coffin besides the witness stand. That would be a bomb transport case. We used that to transport the deactivated bomb here. It was found in the lounge. A bomb in the form of a most distasteful toy.
What?
One on the second floor of the main building, one on the launch pad, and one in the lounge. The defendant planned to set off 3 firework displays. Fortunately, the third was discovered before it could be detonated, or had it not. The victim's body and other vital evidence would surely have been immolated.
Objection!
Before you utter a word, know that the evidence supports me.
It's like he's reading my mind.
As it's still undergoing forensic investigation, I do not have the evidence on hand. However, know that a peculiar item was found in one of Mr. Starbuck's pockets. Specifically, a bomb detonation switch.
You found what?
I suspect the defendant had no time to destroy such damning evidence. When the Space Center and Detective Arn stumbled across the murder, so he fought to hide it in his pocket. Feeble brain that he is.
No, Mr. Starbuck would never do anything like that.
Justice Dono, open your eyes and see the truth. This appears to be irrefutable evidence that the accused set off the explosions.
No, there has to be some kind of mistake. This can't be the truth.
Still can't accept it. You believe in your client, come what may. Then why don't you cross-examine the defendant himself?
This has got to be a trap. It's like Blackwell's controlling the entire game. Yeah, it seemed like he was waiting for me to bring up the body moving issue. Why do you say that? Because he had just the right argument when I pointed it out. And to really rub it in, he had the decisive piece of evidence up his sleeve too. He was trying to shake my faith in Mr. Starbuck and break me down. And making you cross-examine Mr. Starbuck at this point was part of his plan too? Totally handed, but I wouldn't expect anything less from him.
Now, let us hear from the arch-villain, the fiendish murderer himself. Famed astronaut Solomon Starbuck. Witness, your name and occupation, please.
Solomon Starbuck, astronaut. Hank. How did this happen?
Mr. Starbuck, you aren't looking very well. Will you be able to give testimony?
Hank. No.
Well, unfortunately, no is not an option. You are being accused of the Space Center bombing and the murder of Clay Terran. Please testify to these allegations.
Hank. Mind if I take this suit off? It's getting really heavy.
Silence.
Yeah, you wouldn't make him testify in an astronaut suit.
It's not the weight of the suit that you feel, but of your sins. Prepare to carry that weight for the rest of your life.
Banish me to the moon. I don't care anymore. Wow, that was super negative. Is he going to be all right up there? He'll be fine, I think. As long as he doesn't totally give up and say he did it, that is. I didn't kill him. All I did was support Clay over my shoulder and get us out of the rocket. Like always, I took the elevator down to the middle level and headed for the corridor. Clay had passed out by the time, and we got the order to evacuate. I didn't kill Clay, I was trying to save him.
So, you assert you didn't set off the bombs, or murder the victim?
Ha 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 ha. But I bet you think I'm lying, right?
I reserve all judgment until after I've heard your full testimony.
Hank. I'm sure you don't believe me. I bet you don't even believe I'm an astronaut. I don't think the judge doubts that. Who'd wear a suit like that except an astronaut?
I will say that when I see you in that movie, you appeared quite courageous, though I suppose reality never quite lives up to fantasy.
Hank. I guess I'm just a big disappointment. Ha 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 ha. I really don't care what happens anymore. Ha ha ha. Oh no, he's completely given up. Hank.
What a depressing fellow. If you were to join me in the clink, I imagine that annoying sighing of yours would rub off on the other inmates.
Clink, by the way, means jail or prison. Like how it rubbed off on Prosecutor Blackwell a second ago. Huh? That was Blackwell's sighing? Mr. Starbuck's testimony contains a glaring contradiction. The question is, what does it mean? Even if Mr. Starbuck is my client, I can't be gun-shy now. It's time to find out the truth. The contradiction. What is the contradiction in his testimony? He said there's a contradiction. What is it? I didn't kill him. All I did was support Clay over my shoulder and get us out of the rocket. Like always, I took the elevator down to the middle level and headed for the corridor. Clay had passed out by the time we got to the order to evacuate. I didn't kill Clay, I was trying to save him. Police officers and riot police gave evacuation instructions immediately. There was a power outage, and the affected areas remained dark. The security system switched over to emergency power and continued to work. Evacuees moved to the basement shelter. Fingerprint recognition system. Only the Prince, the Director, Cosmos, Starbuck, and Terran are authorized. The independent security company manages the use of records. Backup power allows it to function even when the power goes out. Attempts to use print recognition are also recorded via a security camera. So what you're saying is that the victim was still alive at the time. Of course, he was alive and well.
Silence.
If so, then you admit you took a man who was alive and well and silenced him permanently with this knife.
What? No! Black hole confirmed. Dead ahead. Ah, it's no good, Captain. I'm getting sucked in.
Objection!
Mr. Starbuck, you are not in space. Please give your testimony seriously. If it was just nerves, maybe I shouldn't have said he was alive and well. It was more like he was slumped over. There's a complete opposite ends of the spectrum. Like always, I took the elevator down to the middle level and headed for the corridor.
Hold it!
Is that the elevator inside this launch pad area? That's right. We always use it to get, to and from the cockpit.
That makes sense.
So he was just using the route he always used, in spite of the fact that there had just been an explosion. Huh. I think Mr. Starbuck is hiding something. Something pretty big. I took the elevator down to the middle level and headed for the corridor. Hold it. The elevator inside the launch pad area, that's right. We always use it and get to and from the cockpit. But he's using the route he always used, in spite of the fact that there had just been an explosion. Huh. Yeah.
Objection!
I was right, yeah. There was a fire there. Mr. Starbuck, I need your testimony to be as accurate as possible. Was I not being accurate? No, because it's impossible for you to have taken the elevator down to the middle level.
What makes you say that, Mr. Justice?
Please recall where the bomb went off in Launch Pad 1. Also recall that after the explosion, the middle level elevator was engulfed in flames.
Oh, you're right, which means...
Exactly. The launch pad's elevator would have been unusable. In other words... Mr. Starbuck, your statement is decidedly inconsistent with the facts. What's with the helmet? Ah, Mission Command, do you read me? Come in, please.
Objection!
This is Mission Command. And I order you to pay attention. Yeah, so why is he lying about that? About the elevator? And I do love the soundtrack in these games. These games have such great music. Stop this nonsense and answer my questions, Mr. Starbuck. Ah, my helmet. My oxygen tank. Oxygen concentration and body temperature declining. Requesting medical assistance. Ah.
Mr. Starbuck, we are not in space right now. Please stop pretending you have lost consciousness and stand back up.
I apologize, Your Honor. I forgot I was still on Earth. I feel like we all just got a real glimpse of Solomon Starbuck, the astronaut. Yeah, he seemed more like an astronaut now than what he was doing all that sighting. Mr. Starbuck, could you please explain the inconsistency in your statement about how you used the middle-level elevator? I, was nervous and I said the wrong thing. I'm sorry. I actually, took a different route. I think. A different route?
I hope you're able to deliver a straight story this time.
Heck, I'll get it right this time, maybe. No, I mean probably.
Probably. It's understandable to be nervous, but let me remind you, accuracy is paramount in court.
My escape route. Let's see, my escape route. What I said before was a mistake. I, remember now. I took a different route. Maybe. Probably. With the capsule and clay in my arms, I made my way down from the upper level. That was a testimony? So you're saying you escape without using the elevator? That's right. There's a ladder that spans the upper middle levels. What? How did you carry? They're saying that when somebody is like in this astronaut suit, they said it's like 200 pounds. How did you carry somebody those 200 pounds down a ladder? There's no way in hell he did that. That's BS. I used that ladder to get to the middle level. Luckily, the fire hadn't reached the ladder, so we could make our escape that way. And the capsule you mentioned. I suppose you mean the thing next to Mr. Terran here. Was the capsule that important that you risk your life to take it with you? It almost goes without saying, but yeah, that capsule contains asteroid samples. Therefore, it's invaluable as research material. With a spacesuit on, Clay weighed a ton, but securing that capsule was also important. I need you to answer to the best of your ability. Mr. Starbuck, please remember that your verdict is riding on your testimony. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Hang. Maybe I am guilty after all. I wonder if you can see the stars in prison. Bet it's more comfortable than a spacesuit ship. My escape route. Let's see, my escape route. What I said before was a mistake.
Hold it!
How could you mistake such a basic fact? Hey, everybody makes mistakes, but try thinking about the vastness of space instead. From Earth, it takes 4 light years to travel to our nearest neighboring star. But you see, compared to the vast expanse of space, human error is insignificant. I wish he'd consider it just a little more significant than 0.
Enough jabbering. Get on with your testimony.
I remember now. I took a different route. Maybe, probably. This testimony's really bad. This is not helping him right now. Maybe? Probably? Did I hear you right, Mr. Starbuck? I didn't say either of those things. Mission Control, come in, please. An error has occurred in the sound system. Activate the emergency tin can telephone. Oh, no! Tin can telephones are ineffective in the vacuum of space.
Silence.
Stop this nonsense, or I will sever you and your tin can telephone.
Alright, I'm begging you. I'll tell the truth. Just don't sever anything. Apollo, is he going to be alright? I'm starting to think he's not. Let's see. So about when we were running away, with the capsule and Clay in my arms, I made my way down from the upper level.
Hold it!
The upper level of the launch pad area. That's right. That's what I said, isn't it? Granted, that route does exist. So to recap, you had Clay over your right shoulder and the capsule in your left hand? Yeah, it's really important. So I couldn't let it get burned up. So even though Clay was really heavy, I couldn't afford to carry him with both hands. I did the best I could, with him over one shoulder and the capsule in my other hand. I don't think the meaning of what he just said has hit him yet.
You know what you have to do with that statement. Justice Dono.
Let's see what he said. The capsule and Clay, I made my way down from the upper level. Hold it. You had Clay over your right shoulder and the capsule in your left hand. Yes, I know. Well, I've come this far. No turning back now. It's time to present some evidence. So Mr. Starbuck escaped with Clay in the capsule, which means... It's just like in the footage. I can see why he couldn't run, though. He must have weighed over 200 pounds just by himself. How did he get down the ladder? Yeah, and he had to support Clay, who was another 200 pounds. Plus, he had to ensure the safety of the capsule. I don't think I could have even walked under those circumstances. Walking straight forward is probably about all I would have been able to manage. See, my escape route. What I said before was a mistake. It's a ladder, yep. See if this is it.
Objection!
Yep, I was right. Mr. Starbuck, why don't you just tell the truth? That's truth. Let's see. The Earth is blue. No, that's not right. So, I guess the Earth isn't blue? Yeah, that's it. The truth, Mr. Starbuck. The oxygen concentration is super low in this area. Prepare the emergency oxygen tanks.
Mr. Justice, the witness appears confused. Please help draw out the truth from him.
Mr. Starbuck, under the circumstances at the time, you couldn't possibly have reached the boarding lounge via the upper level route. Huh? Not as long as this was along the escape route. The ladder.
Take that!
To get down from the upper to the middle level where the Launchpad 1 corridor is, you would have to go down the ladder. Isn't that right, Mr. Starbuck? Of course. That was the only way we could escape,
Objection!
but how are you going to... But how would that work? At the time, you were supporting Mr. Tehran over your shoulder, were you not? And remember, he was in full space gear as well, putting him over 200 pounds. Oh! Well, it's easy on the moon. Gravity is only 1/6 of what it is on Earth. But you weren't on the moon.
Objection!
But the space center is located on Earth. Short of being an octopus, climbing a ladder with an adult male in space gear in one arm, while carrying the capsule in your other, is impossible, wouldn't you say? Oh. So, Mr. Starbuck, how exactly did you climb down the ladder with your arms full? What's going on here? Mr. Starbuck, come clean and tell us the truth, now! Engineer! Where's that engineer? Oxygen leak detected due to faulty maintenance. Evacuate immediately. What the? He's flying the coop? Help! I'm caught on the ceiling. Help? Anyone?
Bailiff, prepare the cherry picker. We must launch our rescue mission at once.
Well, that's one way to take off while being questioned. Rather prove his innocence so he can go to space again someday for real.
Now then, Mr. Starbuck, do you think you can keep your feet planted on the ground?
Yes, I apologize for losing control. Are you ready to tell us the truth? Not that. Anything but that. What is going on? This isn't the Mr. Starbuck I know. What's the truth?
It appears Space Boy is prone to deception.
What if it's the other way around? Because in the footage here, we can't see who's who because they're both wearing the same astronaut. What if Star is actually the guy that's actually collapsing, while Terran is actually carrying him and the capsule? What if it's the other way around?
Witness!
Yikes! Yes.
I thought your story odd, but perhaps the inconsistencies can be explained as the result of a medical side effect.
Prosecutor Blackwell, please. Please don't talk about that. What are you talking about, Prosecutor Blackwell?
Didn't I already state that Space Boy is ironically terrified of going into space? That's why he took some precautions just before the launch. For you see, traces of this anti-anxiety drug were found in his system.
Oh. I sense things are about to nosedive. You got it all wrong. I told him during the investigation too. I don't know anything about any drugs. I never took any medication, I swear. It was found in his system, but he doesn't remember taking it. How could that be? Somebody slipped it in his drink. Oh, somebody must have slipped into me. Yup, what I just said. But I guess maybe that's why I don't remember. Because of the side effects. Yeah, that's why I don't remember much about what really happened. What?
Order! Order in the court!
We can't get any useful testimony out of him if he doesn't remember anything. Well, this certainly explains why his testimony kept changing. Why didn't he just tell me he couldn't remember? I guess he didn't want anybody to find out he was terrified of going into space.
Hank.
Maybe I really didn't do it.
Which brings us to the answer of our original question. Of how the witness climbed down the ladder with a dead body.
It does. So what is it?
A dead man feels no pain and makes no complaints, Justice Dono.
Oh no. Is he saying what I think he's saying? Oh no, I think I know what he's about to say. I think he's gonna say he threw the body down the ladder. That's what I think he's gonna say. That would make sense, how he was able to get him down the ladder. If he was already dead, he could have just thrown him down the ladder. That's,
So the body was simply dropped down from the top of the ladder.
I called it. Damn, I predicted it.
Oh my, I see. And the defendant could climb down with his free hand.
Objection!
Drop the body down? Who would do such a disrespectful thing? Besides, dropping the body down would leave marks on the body itself, but he's in a spacesuit. So you're not gonna see any marks. The spacesuit's gonna cushion the fall, probably.
So you are capable of quick thinking. Yes, yes, you are correct.
Really? Oh, thanks. He's gonna say what I think he's gonna say. That the spacesuit pretty much covered the... what's this?
It's the oxygen tank from the victim's spacesuit. It's ruptured, and I'm sure you can figure out why.
You can't be implying it ruptured when the defendant dropped the victim's body.
I am, for they fracture easily when struck.
Objection!
Even if that's true, the tank explosion shrapnel would leave its mark on the body. Yet according to the autopsy report, only the knife wound was found on the victim's body. You're clearly grasping at straws with this line of reasoning.
Silence!
A spacesuit isn't heavy for the sake of being heavy, Justice Dono. It includes the latest technology devices, and is made of the fabric of tomorrow. This fabric is made to protect astronauts from the dangers of space. So falling a few Earth yards would hardly leave a mark on the wearer.
Objection!
Then shouldn't it be possible to stab someone through it as well? Well, that's kind of what I said earlier, too, yeah.
It should, and yet, through sheer coincidence, the knife slipped through a weak spot in the chute's structure and found its way to the target. So I was right, it wouldn't be hard to stab through that suit.
What are the chances?
You forget that our killer is an astronaut himself with the knowledge of how the suit's work.
He's got me there.
And now, my argument has been proven. Spaceboy killed the victim in the rocket and then dropped his body from the upper level. After climbing down, he shouldered the body and made sure the camera recorded them. There's no room for debate about these facts. It's clear that Solomon Starbuck is the only one who could have killed Clay Terran. Here, the report regarding the astronauts' oxygen tanks. Consider it my send-off gift. Feel free to use it as payment to cross the river Styx.
Victim's tank rupture with 0% left. The defendant had 80%. Remaining oxygen is displayed on the left shoulder. Hey, this report is pretty detailed. Display on the astronaut's left shoulder shows the oxygen remaining. After the incident, the victim's tank was ruptured and the remaining oxygen was 0%. The tank belonged to Starbuck, who claims to have carried the victim, said it was 80% full. Tanks were functioning properly at the time. Let's see, the display on the astronaut's left shoulder shows the oxygen remaining. I guess that means these glowing cyan digits represent the amount of oxygen in the tank. Hang on a second. Starbuck is claiming that his tank was 80%. But if you look, there's 50 on there. And we can't see the number on the other tank because of the camera angle. What if it's the other way around? What if Terran is actually carrying Starbuck and his suit is actually losing oxygen? Hank, I'm done for. I'm going to prison instead of space.
Space Boy.
Yeah, yes.
Take heart. The bejeweled night. The bejeweled night sky is still beautiful even when viewed through bars. You mean
The stars are seen from prison?
that's right. Your cell will be your spaceship. Picture the view through the iron bars. It's like being an astronaut in your own craft for all time.
Ha ha ha, that's not a half bad thought. Mr. Starbuck. Prosecutor Blackwell got to him good. Spaceship prison cell, fly me my guilt and my despair into the deepest, darkest space. And then let's get sucked into a black hole together. Mr. Starbuck, you can't give up hope. Oh? Yes, Apollo. You know Clay really looked up to you. He said you were an incredible man. He said you'd never give up your dreams and passion for space no matter the situation. He said that. So don't give up now and help me prove your innocence. For the sake of the man who respected you and believed in you, Clay Terran. For Clay.
You're wasting your breath.
Rod! Rod! Well, what's going on here now? Apollo, thank you. I can see things clearly now. Mr. Starbuck. I'm fine now. Thanks for reminding me of my life's mission. Right. We'll both be fine. I'll prove you're innocent. You'll see. And after that, we'll get you back into space. You've ignited the booster rockets of my soul. I'm on fire. I am Solomon Starbuck, Astronaut, a cosmic hero chosen by the universe itself. This is no time to be whimpering and crying. I can't let you and Clay down.
Balderdash.
The sun, the moon. All of space is calling me Solomon Saul Starbuck. Ready for launch. Begin the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2. The judge is counting. 1. Lift off. I like how the judge helped with that too. The judge was part of the counting too.
Whoa. I feel like I've witnessed an actual rocket launch.
Apollo, you did it. You broke Prosecutor Blackwell's grip over Mr. Starbuck. I can't take the credit. It was all Mr. Starbuck. He pulled himself through.
If you simpletons are done massaging one another's egos. No matter how positive your mood, my advantage remains unshakable. I have but to wait for the final guilty verdict. Isn't that right, your baldness?
Can't let up now. I have to stop Blackwell. I have to see this through. Mr. Starbuck just has to make it back into space. I won't allow Clay's dreams to remain unfulfilled. I've got to destroy Blackwell's arguments somehow. Think, Justice. Think. The only people at Launchpad 1 were Clay and Mr. Starbuck. And if Clay was already dead by the time this footage was taken, then the only person who could have killed him is Mr. Starbuck. So the only way to counter Blackwell's argument is if I can prove that Clay was still alive when they arrived at the boarding lounge. In which case, I should be able to find some contradiction to the evidence itself. Now let's see. About this data that we just received. This supposedly proves that Mr. Starbuck dropped Clay's body in the Launchpad 1. But if I'm going to prove that false, then there must be something I can use here.
Enough of this farce, your baldness. Let's have your verdict.
Prosecutor Blackwell, you seem to be in quite a hurry to rush the verdict. What about this oxygen tank data you submitted just now? It says Mr. Starbuck's tank had 80% remaining, while Mr. Terrence had 0. Yes. Do you stand by the accuracy of this report?
Of course.
Then I guess it simply means that it's faulty as evidence goes. His was at 80%, and then the picture, the 50 on there. It's the other way around. I think it's Terran Clay carrying him because we can't see the faces. Terran carrying Starbuck.
You will explain what you mean, Justice Dono.
It's simple. This evidence contradicts the facts of this case. Take a look here at the detailed description and you'll see what I mean.
I hope you have some evidence, Mr. Justice, because I don't see what's so contradictory.
Yes, Your Honor. Right away. This is the evidence the oxygen tank report stands is in contradiction to. This, yep.
Take that!
And how does that evidence present a contradiction?
The problem is this part here. We're selected right here.
Take
Yep.
that!
Note the remaining oxygen in Mr. Starbuck's tank as he carries Mr. Tehran.
It appears to say 50.
Yes, but according to the data, our client's tank had 80% remaining.
The oxygen in the tank increased.
I see, Your Honor finds it as strange as I do. It's bad enough that there is a contradiction, but the increase in oxygen is beyond illogical.
Oh my, you're absolutely right. What is going on here?
Silence!
I too find it odd that the oxygen remaining has increased. It would be odd as if my rations were to increase. But what does that prove? It doesn't change the fact that it's the defendant carrying the victim's corpse.
No, it's the other way around.
Objection!
Heh, I'm gonna bet you don't get more rations because you don't abide by the rules. Either way, the oxygen remaining shouldn't increase, it's just your rations don't increase. Therefore, this new information is critical. We can't overlook it.
In that case, do you have an answer to this riddle of this mysteriously increasing oxygen?
Yep, it's the other way around what they're carrying.
You better not disappoint, or I'll declare the inconsistency as mere equipment malfunction.
Eric.
Prosecutor Blackwell's a point. I suppose it could be a simple malfunction. No, it's not. Mr. Justice, if you could not prove an adequate counter-argument to this point, I'm afraid I must bring this trial to an end. So, do you think you can explain why the remaining oxygen level increased? Yep.
Of course I can. The thing to do at a time like this is to turn my thinking around. Mr. Starbuck has no memory of it, but he claims to have carried clay. This man with 50 on his tank ought to be Mr. Starbuck. But if anything, the display in his oxygen tank should have shown an 80. This is a clear contradiction between the report and the security footage. So what I should be asking is not, why did the oxygen level increase? But what had to have happened to make it look like it increased? Am I making some kind of mistake in my base assumptions here?
Well, Mr. Justice, we're waiting.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm ready to answer. This is why the remaining oxygen appears to have increased. The tanks were damaged, they were going the other way. No, the victim was carrying the defendant. This. What if it was the other way around?
The other way around? Would you care to explain, Mr. Justice?
As you can see, Your Honor, both men have their helmets on in this footage. But it turns out, this is where our base assumption went astray. We assumed that it was Mr. Starbuck helping Mr. Tehran, but it was the other way around. It wasn't Mr. Starbuck helping Mr. Tehran at all. It was Mr. Tehran who was helping Mr. Starbuck to the boarding lounge. Yes, I called it. I predicted all of it. I got it all right. Even before I got the question, I got it right.
Order! Order! Mr. Justice! You mean to tell me that the person on the right in this image is the victim Clay Terran?
It's the only way the riddle of the increasing oxygen level can be solved, Your Honor. At this point in time, the remaining oxygen in the victim's tank was 50%. And when the victim was found in the boarding lounge, his tank was at 0%. That's right. There's nothing contradictory about the oxygen level decreasing. This means Mr. Tehran was alive as they made their escape to the lounge.
Silence!
How short your memory is. Have you forgotten what you yourself proposed? Even if the victim was alive at this point in time. How did he descend the ladder with his arms full?
Objection!
Prosecutor Blackwell, you can't hurt me with a broken blade.
Excuse me?
It's true that we don't know how they got down the ladder. I suppose that needs further investigating. We have proven that Mr. Tehran was alive when he reached the boarding lounge. This fact alone shatters your claims. and opens up the possibility that the victim could have been killed by a third party. There were 2 people who claimed to be first on the scene. But can we truly trust their statements? Let's see. The 2 people were Detective Candace Arm and Yuri Cosmos, right? It's not Detective Arn. She's not the killer. It's Yuri. You think that one of them might have given a false statement to the police? Yes, it's certainly possible. We might have to do a little more digging. It seems we'll have to hear the testimony of these first 2 people on the scene. Score.
Come to think of it, Detective Arn should be here in court right now. Bailiff, could you please show Detective Arn to the stand?
Remember, she was murdered. I have an announcement, everyone.
Oh, what's the meaning of this? We're in the middle of a trial here.
It's tonight. Please remain calm and listen carefully. Someone has reactivated the bomb. The bomb was defused, but it's about to explode.
Explode?
So this is when that explosion happened in the first case. A bomb. Now, it's not a coincidence that it's gonna happen now. Oh, everybody run! Eek! I don't want to die. Oh no. Everybody's panicking.
Silence.
Headless chickens with a death wish, the lot of you. Calm yourselves before all else.
Come on, Apollo, let's get out of here. What about Mr. Starbuck's dream? And who will carry out Clay's final wish? I don't care what happens to me. I'm not letting some bomb blow the truth up forever. I refuse to let things end here. Apollo, this is no time to be dramatic. If we don't get out of here, we're gonna die. Come on, this way. Hey, ouch. Let me go. Apollo. Juniper, she hasn't even evacuated yet. Eek. Juniper, are you alright? Apollo, no. Not that way. Ah! And that's when the bomb detonated and then Juniper got accused of detonating it. Yeah, the bomb exploded. So basically, if you go back to my first case when it was in Dual Destinies, it was the killer detonates a bomb in court. That's the name of the video. That's like several parts behind. That was that other case with Ted to Nate. That's basically what happened. So the bomb was detonated in court, and what's going to happen is that the detective is going to be murdered because she was murdered when the bomb basically went off. But we still have Yuri's testimony, so we still got to bring him. So thank you guys for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed this part. If you did, do drop a like, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day, guys.